Alright, so we have gotten the real SimGear GNS 530 for X-Plane 11. And so I'm trying to get it set up on my simulator here, but there's a few things that I wish I had known ahead of time. So one thing is the complete and utter lack of any physical way to attach this thing to anything. It has a little bit of a bezel here around the edge, but there's no screw holes. There's no, nothing from the front like a real GNS 530 that you would use to lock it into the panel. So there's absolutely no way to mount this, and so I'm going to have to make up, which is what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to make up something to get this thing mounted here. The next problem is you'll notice that they have a power plug and an HDMI plug down here in the bottom, and there's really not enough room for, especially the HDMI plug, there's not enough room for that thing to turn. Now they did supply a 90-degree adapter here, so that should take care of the HDMI problem with it coming out. So this problem is okay. This power cord, though, it's not really a good idea to bend this thing right out of the box. It does sit pretty flush down here at the bottom, so I don't think I'm going to mount it completely flush with my bench over here, because it's going to have to come up a little bit. But the most disappointing part of all of this is that it has a USB connection that it's using to actually drive all the buttons and the interface and stuff, and it comes out of the side of the unit. I don't know why we've got a USB out the side and these guys out the bottom. You'll also notice it's pretty close to the edge here, and so the problem with this is that for me to mount this where I wanted to put it, I've got a cable that's going to run out across my throttle quadrant. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to pull this off yet. I'm still thinking about exactly how I'm going to mount it, but this is a much bigger dilemma than what I expected when I ordered this. I really had no idea that it was going to have a USB cable sticking out the side and have no mounting hardware at all to actually mount this. So I'm pretty disappointed at this point, but we're going to work through it and try to figure it out. Alright, so I ended up having to put another graphics card in the computer because I've already got these 3 monitors, and now I've got a 4th monitor, and as you can see, this thing just acts like, as far as Windows is concerned, it just acts like another monitor in your setup. The first thing that you've got to do is you've got to right click on your desktop and go to screen resolution, and it'll bring up your screen, your monitor setup. And so as you can see, I've got monitor 1, 3, 2, and 4. If I hit identify, you can see it's 1, 3, 2, and then 4 is the little guy, and I've got it positioned down at the bottom of the center monitor. So the first thing you got to do is click on, once you drag your monitor down, and by the way, once you plug the monitor in, Windows should automatically install the drivers and stuff for it, so there shouldn't be a lot to do to actually get that to work. But once you get it installed, and I know you can't see this on the video, but you're going to drag it to wherever you want to position it. You're going to click on it, and then it'll say landscape, and if you look at the monitor, the image is actually upside down. And so what you've got to do is come over to orientation and click on landscape flipped, and that'll actually flip the resolution to the right side up. I don't know why it comes up that way, but that's what you've got to do to get it to actually come up correctly. And so the problem that we're having now is I've got Windows seeing all 4 monitors, but X-Plane is a cluster when you go in there to actually try to get all this to work. I don't know if it just isn't going to support 4 monitors. Right at the moment, it doesn't look like it's going to support 4 monitors, but it jacks the resolution and where it puts everything up so badly that I'm kind of at a loss. And so what I'm going to do right now is when I hit identify, you can see that this is monitor 1, but monitor 2 is all the way over here. And so what I want to do is I want to get monitor 1, 2, 3, and 4 and have them be in the correct positions. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to actually swap the cables that I've got that are plugging these monitors in so that they're actually in the right order. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is to get these things positioned the way that I want them, because Windows is pretty crazy the way you would think that I could just drag 1, 2, 3 or tell it that, you know, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, but it doesn't really work that way. It's kind of weird the way that it's doing this. So first step right now is I'm going to go ahead and get these things so that it's positioned 1, 2, and 3. All right, so what I'm doing right now is I'm pulling up X-Plane. I swapped the cables so that we now have 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I'm pulling up X-Plane, and I'm going to show you what this looks like here when it opens up, because it's pretty crazy. Unless it fixes itself just by me changing those two monitors, but I'm not expecting it to do that. So as you can see, we have a partial display here, a partial display over there. We have the number 4 displaying, and we have the over here on this side we've got a full display showing up over here. So this guy looks normal on number 3. Number 2 is the resolution is off. Number 1, the resolution is off, and they both are kind of mimicking what monitor 4 is looking like. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to try to get this camera positioned over here on this monitor, and we're going to take a look at what happens in the setup configuration, because it gets really goofy here. So I'm going to come up here and we're going to go to settings. And so the first thing is the resolution is off on this. It's set to 1024 by 768, which is something that I did earlier. So I'm going to change it back to default monitor setting. And so that gets the display looking like it's supposed to. But you'll notice in the background, if we close this, we still have a little bitty window over here, which is actually a 640 by 480, which is what this GNS 530 is displaying. And so we've got a number of things wrong. We need to get monitor 1 to actually display the full cockpit. Right now monitor 2 and 3 are working properly, so they're in the wrong place, but they actually are at least displaying full resolution. So I don't know why monitor 1 and monitor 4 are both displaying this crazy tiny little display. So if we go back in here to settings, so this is where I was saying things are getting, they're just completely out of whack. So here's the control, and we've got main monitor that's listed here, and it says default monitor settings for the monitor, and it's really wide and goes off the screen over here on the right. And so I need to look at the visual offsets, but you'll notice that I can't actually change any of the numbers for this are way off the screen over here, but I don't have a horizontal scroll bar. I don't have any way to get over here unless I go all the way down here to the bottom, and then I get a display bar that I can drag this over. Then I have to scroll back up here to the top, and sometimes my mouse wheel works and sometimes it doesn't. And so here is the display, and right now I've got, I can't see what any of this stuff is pointing at anymore because it's off the screen. So X-Plane is not dealing with this situation very well at all. So I'm gonna have to look, I'm gonna have to talk to them and see if there's some way to work around this, because right now As an example, I've got, I can change my field of view here, but all it's doing is zooming in on this little bitty box over here. This monitor is not displaying the full monitor. So I don't know what I need to do to get this to display properly. I guess I can go in here and select a different size monitor and see what that does. But see, so I just selected a 1920 by 1080, but it's still only displaying a tiny little window over here. It's not changing what I'm actually looking at. So at the moment, I am trying to figure this out. So I won't bore you with all the details until I actually get it figured out. But right now, X-Plane's kind of wigging on me. All right, sorry about the rain on the roof. Hopefully the audio is going to turn out okay. But here's what I've got so far. I've got my left monitor, my center monitor, which you can see actually has a small view there that's mimicking what is the 1024 by 768 on this little screen here. I don't know why it's doing that. Another odd thing is when I bring this up, there's no buttons on here, which I'm assuming it's detecting that it's got this device plugged in. But the problem is none of the buttons down here on this thing are actually working, so I'm not sure exactly what the process is on that. I'm still researching that. But here's the odd thing is you'll notice if I drag this and if I drag it down here to this other screen, you'll notice that the cursor is showing up down here in this screen. But if you look up here, it's like the monitor is wrapping through. So when it should be displaying the thing down here on this monitor, it actually brings it back up onto this big monitor up here in the center. So I don't know what in the world is going on. This whole thing is getting a little frustrating, but hopefully you can tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I don't know why I'm getting this little bitty view up here on this guy. And the resolution is 1024 by 768 instead of the 1920 by 1080. So I don't know exactly why it's doing this or what I need to do to get this piece here to actually show up down here on this device here. Got it painted black. So we are waiting for it to dry, and we will get it back upstairs on the simulator and hook everything up. So we got the unit mounted up here. Got the plate made. As I had mentioned earlier, the USB coming out of the side, I had to cut the plate out to allow plugging in that USB. I hope I have it deep enough. I may end up having to come back and file this off a little bit more. But that is a really stupid thing that they did on that. I don't know why they have that thing going in there like that. All right, so we got the unit mounted to the table here. For whatever reason, so here's what I ended up doing. If we push this back up, you can see that it's up here on the screen. So you click on the 530, it pops it up on the screen, and it looks funny because the system has changed the front of the plate so that it doesn't have all the buttons on it, because you're actually going to use the buttons off of the 530 unit. And so when you point over here to the side, you'll get a couple little squares. You'll click on them and it actually opens up with this menu at the top, and you evidently have to open that to get it to let you scroll. So now when I scroll down, you'll notice that it is coming into my screen. So now the 530 is just getting treated like another monitor. So now I'm going to double click on the heading bar, which maximizes it to fit inside this window. And so now when we come down here and say we want to do a direct to Thomaston, and we say enter, and then we can hold it clear to get it to go back. And so now if we go down here to procedure, select approach. So everything just like so say we're going to shoot the 2, and we'll shoot it from Jotter. So now, and then we just load and activate the approach, hold the clear, it'll get us back over here. Our rings zoom in and zoom out. So everything is working just like a real 530 would. My only issue, so I had to cut out the plate, and what I had done back here was enough to get that to work, because you've got a USB cord that comes off to the side. So I angled it in here instead of mounting it flat so that so my cord could get back here out of the way. So I'll get all this stuff tied up and cleaned up now that I've got it all set up. So that took care of that. I also had to mount it up off the bottom of this table so that I had room to plug the things in from the bottom. So all that stuff is in. My only issue that I'm having right now is, you'll notice my main monitor, I've got my left monitor, I've got my right view going out the right wing, but the center module, this resolution is the same resolution as this little screen. So for some reason, my main screen is actually coming up looking funky instead of filling up the whole monitor, and I'm still waiting on X-Plane to tell me how to fix this. So I've gotten everything figured out. We got the front monitor fixed. I'm going to show you exactly what we did. The guys over at the Real Sim Gear got on my computer and finally got everything set up where it's working. So here's the 530 that we've got installed, and we've got the plate and everything mounted for it. We've got the software running for our 6-pack. We've got Garmin Pilot over here. And so what we ended up doing for the display is, if you point up here to the top, up on the right, and go to settings, and you go to the graphics section of the setup, wherever you position the little display for the 530, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to get your horizontal scroll bar. It's kind of, the X-Plane's kind of crazy with this setup screen, because it is a hokey bunch of mess. But if you scroll over until you get to wherever it is that you positioned your the small monitor, see, the thing is like, this whole setup screen is very frustrating, but you only have to do this once, so it's not that big a deal. But find your little monitor that you're going to be using for the 530 and tell it that it is unused. And then once you do that, you'll be able to drag the window for the 530 down into the little monitor and get everything to work. If you set this to being set to full screen simulator, that's what jacks up the screen and causes your main display to become the resolution of the little display. It makes a mess. So you want to set this to unused for that display to get all that to work. And then once you do that, you get out of that screen, and then you'll have your main simulator, your main screen, your left screen, your right screen, your 530, and then we've got our 6-pack here, and then your Garmin Pilot over here on the other iPad. So this is our current setup, and we're going to do some flying videos now.